Thank you. Good afternoon. It's one of my greatest pleasures to come to Leeward because I think you have some of the finest instructors in the whole state of Hawaii, and I hope you recognize and appreciate that because these folks work really hard on your behalf. And there is a whole community out there that believes in all of you and supports what you're doing. When I was starting out in the culinary profession, I had the opportunity to get scholarships and to learn in some of the experiences that I'm very passionate about the Hawaii Culinary Education Foundation providing. The foundation is comprised of a whole group of individuals that work tirelessly to raise funds for educational programs like this. Some of the folks on the advisory board are your chef instructor, Don Mariyama, who serves on the advisory, and also Brooks Takenaka, who is an advocate for youth education, for culinary education. And when I moved to Hawaii was one of my first introductions to someone who was so incredibly passionate about seafood, sustainability, education, and who has a lifelong desire, I would say, to further his education and to share that with the community. Brooks is the general manager of the Honolulu Fish Auction and has advocated throughout the community and taught programs like this at the community colleges throughout the state of Hawaii. He is not only known, though, in Hawaii, but really throughout the United States, where he's recognized as an expert in seafood. And he's brought with him a powerhouse team today, and one that I'm really excited that, to have him introduced to you as well, Nelson and Dr. John Kaneko. And they have the expertise that makes this program one of my favorites that we offer to you from the Hawaii Culinary Education Foundation. So without taking up any more of their time, I want to introduce you to Brooks Takenaka.
Thank you, Haley. It's always a pleasure for us to participate in these kinds of programs. And so, United Fishing Agency or Fish Auction itself has played a significant role, I think, in the industry, and as well as beginning these programs. To begin with, the Hawaii Seafood Council actually started off as the Hawaii Seafood Promotion Program. And then sustainability became a very significant part of our lives. So we morphed that into the Hawaii Seafood Council, which is a far more expanded version of that program, and doing a lot more other things like classes and events in the community. At this point in time, just so that we can get going, I'd like to introduce Dr. John Kaneko. He is a doctor of veterinary medicine, and fortunately for us here in Hawaii, he has had a personal interest in fish and fisheries and aquaculture, and he's meant a significant amount of really a lot of information, research, and everything else for us in the fishing industry here in Hawaii. So he is the executive director of the Hawaii Seafood Council. John is going to talk to you about sustainability very briefly. And then Nelson, my assistant, the guy I can't do without, also happens to be very talented and skilled with his knife. He's the kind of guy that would compete in fish cutting contests and filleting contests in the Northwest. And let me tell you, when people like him get through with filleting a fish, the cats would starve. So let's get on with the main part of the program, John. If you will kindly share a little bit about the Hawaii sustainability and fisheries, and we can follow up with Nelson.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to take this over there. Yeah. Thanks for that introduction, Brooks. I'm sorry I didn't bring any scholarship money or anything for you folks, but I did bring one of the Hawaii seafood posters. And so just to get you folks involved, the question to me was, could you come and talk about sustainability and seafood? And so I'll ask somebody in the audience to give me a quick definition of what you think sustainable wild seafood means. Now that person, you come up with a reasonable answer, you'll get the poster. Anybody? Come on. It's a nice poster. You don't want me to have to take this out, do you? Anybody? What do you think sustainability means? Everybody's trying to sell you sustainable seafood or sustainable this or that. What?
The seafood
So that's a long way of saying you don't take more than the population can replenish, right? The population or the environment, right? Okay, so what do you guys think about that? So we're talking about wild seafood first, not farm raised, but wild. So that means it's capture fisheries, somebody's out there fishing, catching it, and you can't catch more than the population will replace over the long haul. That's basically it. Do you guys agree with that? Sounds good? Okay. Are you sure? Okay. He's going to get a nice poster there. The thing that I'll talk about here is I'm introducing now a module that's a series of PowerPoint slides that have just been loaded up on our website. You all got the website card. And we started to do not only some of the talks, outreach based on some of our research, but we're also looking at how to get more bang for our buck as far as the educational function of the website. So we put up and we got a grant to do 7 or 6 modules on fisheries to enhance fishery education in Hawaii at the university level. And so this is one of them that has to do with the sustainability of Hawaii seafood. So why sustainable seafood? Why are we worried about it? It's because in our lifetime, my lifetime, we've gone from let's go get that fish to wow, we have enough fishing power to overdo it. Overdoing it is overfishing, fishing faster than the reproductive capacity of the population. So why is it so concerning to us? It's because we're concerned about the condition of the world's stocks of fish. Many people don't know where their seafood comes from. And so as consumers, we ought to really be asking the questions, is this a better choice or for a source of product, more sustainable? And many don't understand fisheries or fisheries management. My background is in fisheries, and I've had to do some explanations of what fishery management is and why we are reliant so much on the fishery management system for maintaining the sustainability of our fisheries. So that's a big deal. In more recent times, information is being put out from fishery managers, eco-labelers, people that have consumer guides on their brand or their definitions of sustainable seafood. But seafood or fisheries in the United States have been managed under the principles of maximum sustainable yields for many years. And since 1976, when our first overarching fishery management law went into effect, it's been a mandate for all federally managed fisheries to operate sustainably. And that means you have to have money, you have to have science, you have to have analysis, and you have to have a management system that will respond to the new information. So it's a continuous process in which we are monitoring and maintaining our fisheries. So you can look around the world at different sources of fish, and really, if you're thinking about sustainability, it's not about is it local or is it caught by some guy in a canoe. It's really about whether or not it's managed, because we need to know how much are they taking, at what size are they taking the fish, and is it really coming back to replenish itself. Now, why am I saying that about imported seafood is because the country at this point is eating over 90% imported seafood, which means that we need to look at, for most of our seafood, is look at the management systems that are out there in the rest of the world and make a comparison with what we have here. So that's kind of where we are. Now, as far as quality assessment, we can judge fish quality by looking at it. But what are you going to do about sustainability? How are you going to judge it? So here's my definition. Sustainable wild seafood is harvested from a renewable ocean resource that is managed in a way that can maintain production year after year without jeopardizing the ecosystem. So really, in some ways, our fisheries are managed in the United States towards also not only impacts on what we're taking, but impacts on things that we are not taking. things that we're leaving. So that would be things like bycatch or protected species. So that all comes into our definition. Our primary fish that we eat are the pelagic fish or open ocean fish, the tunas, the marlins, all this type of thing. Mahi opas, all these famous fish that we eat. And most of them, the bulk of it, about 90% is caught by this longline fleet. And our port of Honolulu, there's a picture of it. We're right in the middle of Honolulu Harbor there. This port of Honolulu is usually in the top 30, 35 in the nation for the volume of fish landed, but we're always in the top 10 for the value. In other words, we don't catch that much fish, but we're extracting as much as we can out of it. So it's a low volume, high quality, high value fishery. It's very different from fishing for fish meal or fishing for fertilizer or for very cheap fish, inexpensive fish. As far as the top 10 food crops in Hawaii, our wild open ocean fishery is tops. This slide has changed. This is old statistics in 2010. You know that sugar is going out of business, and where are we going to be with the rest of this stuff? So actually, when it comes down to food production systems in Hawaii, it's the wild fisheries that are dominant. You guys how many folks have been down to the auction? Have you guys? So you all been with me and with Brooks at some point? Okay. So this is all repeat. I could just jump ahead, right? You remember all this. Anyway, so there's the auction. There's the right. This is a view from up top of Nico's at Honolulu Harbor, and then right there is Brooks auctioning some of the fish in a few years ago. So it's our main fishery, the Longline Fishery, and there are some of the statistics. We have two different segments. We have the deep set longline gear for our tunas, and then we have a shallow set for swordfish. So shallow set fishery method for swordfish. And we're producing over 90% of all of the American caught big eye tuna that is landed in U.S. ports. And for swordfish, we're doing close to 40%. So 40% of the American swordfish caught by American fishermen landed in the U.S. ports comes from here, and most of it goes to the East Coast. So what does that tell you? If you guys are developing businesses, you better be looking at that swordfish, because that is an undervalued fish over here. So you could start with swordfish, and every visitor that comes from the mainland knows swordfish to be a premium quality fish for the market. So that adds up to a very good combination. So these are the species. You guys know of these, the four ahis or tuna species. You've got the billfish, and the associated catch would be the opa, mai, manchong, onos, those types of fish, and some other things that are not listed. Now, is Hawaii longline caught seafood sustainable? What do you need to know, and who are you going to believe? Just to give you these concepts, and I'm going to skip ahead, is that sustainable seafood comes from responsible fisheries. So in a lot of ways, what we're talking about sustainability, we're really talking about responsible behavior of people that go out and catch fish. You got to be licensed. You have to report your catch. You got to report what you're dumping, right? You don't fin sharks. You don't do all these types of things. So be responsible. And what is a responsible fishery? Responsible fisheries are defined by international agreement through the United Nations. And this is the only fishery that I know of that's actually been assessed against the international standards. And we did that in 2006 and 2008. And our scores were in the 94 percentile. You guys, if you're getting 94% in your grades in school, what do you think? You got a lot of room to improve, or what? You're doing pretty well. You're actually doing pretty well. So the question is, what are those 6% deficiencies? Some of those things are international requirements or things that we would not agree to here in the United States anyway. It would be like cruise wages on boats. guaranteed wages for fishing trips. Around here, fishing trips are done by basically everybody's gambling, right? They go out and they have a share of the catch as opposed to a set wage. If they wanted a set wage, they'd be staying on the beach and working on land. So the conclusion about all that is basically it is a well-managed fishery. And what I was going to get to now is that the ideal fishery management system really requires some kind of a plan that says this is our fishery and this is how we choose to manage it. Establish some reference points, which are really targets for sustainable catch limits and a sustainable level of the stock. So those are the fish stock that we leave behind. And we need to have a system that is going to receive regular scientific advice, effective monitoring control, responsive corrective actions for the management. So once again, you can collect all the data you want, but if you don't analyze it, we're not doing anything, right? All you're doing is collecting data. You can collect data, analyze it, but if you're not willing to act on it, if the management system will not act on that information, then it's still ineffective. We reduce our discards or bycatch. In other words, that's fishery waste, what we catch and kill and throw over the side. Ecosystem issues are addressed. You know, that would be marine waste, protected species interaction, that type of thing. Those are all controlled by regulations. And then have a continuous improvement process embedded right into the fishery management system. And so this is the slide that I'll finish on and we'll all be done. So the fishery management system that we have here in the United States, and also this describes what we have here for our federal managed fisheries offshore here in Hawaii, is described by this diagram. So the fishermen or our Hawaii Longline fishing industry is providing data to the fishery scientists, and that our primary regulators and the scientists are through Department of Commerce and NOAA Fisheries, and those scientists are then charged with collecting the field data, analyzing it, and making recommendations to our Fishery Management Council. Fishery Management Council is a federally mandated regional council for fisheries, and all federally managed fisheries in the United States fall under one of these regional fishery management councils. Now, the fishermen have an opportunity in this system to provide their input. What are their concerns? What are they seeing? What are they worried about? Are they worried about economic factors? Are they concerned about interactions with fish? Is this getting harder for them to catch fish? These types of things come forward. Other stakeholders, who could that be in a fishery management system? That could be somebody who's a vegetarian, doesn't like you eating fish. So all people have a chance in this system to provide information and input into the management system. Advisory groups are part of the Fishery Management Council, and those are made up of commercial fishermen, recreational fishermen, people from the community, guys that are eating the fish. It could be almost anybody that's involved there. And the council is charged with taking that scientific information and the stakeholder input and developing the fishery management plan, maintaining it, amending it. That fishery management plan is actually a proposal for rules on how to maintain this fishery in its sustainable limits. Those suggestions are then given to NOAA Fisheries, the regulators, and they make the decision on what to do about it. And so the job of the council is really very, very important in that it accumulates and digests the scientific information and all of the stakeholder input to make sure that our regulations are responsive to not only stakeholders, but also to the biological sciences. And so that's the system that we have in place, and it's drawn as a circle. Oh, you can barely see that yet. And to reflect that it is a continuous system. So as we continue to get more information and our new concerns are raised, then the council is charged with responding to it. And that's how we made this system. So since 1976, we've had this system. It is now developed. The fishery management plan, for instance, for the pelagic fishery is into its, what amendment are we? 17, 13, something like that? Many, many different amendments that have come forward. And that's how we move forward in this system. And the question for you, and I've done a lot of work overseas and looked at other fisheries, and I'll tell you that most fishery management systems don't have this complete of a package. They might have components, they may have the rules, but no money to fund the science. They may have the money to pay for data collection, but no one's analyzing it. They don't have the fishery management system that is required to take the input of a diverse group of stakeholders as opposed to just the fishermen and or just the environmental community. So this is a system that that works. I think it's a model for the rest of the world to aspire to. So as you get out there into your careers, you need to start asking where that fish is coming from, especially wild fish, and start to respect what it takes to put it onto the plate. Why does one cost more than the other? Quality being equal, that is there a value added to properly managed fisheries and truly sustainable fishery products? So that's my question to you, and I'm going to stop right there. If you guys have any quick questions, I know you want to get to see the blood and guts up here and see Nelson cut his fish, because that's always a lot more fun. But do you guys have any questions about this stuff? You know, for your instructors also, and for Haley also, you know, in the future, we can also I've done a lot of work on seafood quality and seafood safety work on how to handle this product and how to maintain the safety of it. So it's almost a whole new topic for discussion. But I'll stop there. If you guys don't have any questions, I'll stop there and we'll get to the blood and guts. Okay.
All right, thanks, John. As you can see, we can get into a lot of areas and in deep. So we're gonna get to the fun part. Now, this part is supposed to be fun. So think about it like Uncle Nelson over here showing you how to fillet fish, and whatever questions you have, ask. Okay. We want this to be fun. Whatever handling, storing, icing, quality, yields, those sort of things, ask. No stupid questions. So Nelson, he's going to walk you through receiving. Anyway, I'll let Nelson just explain all of this.
I just wanted to explain a couple things, and thank you guys for having me out here. This is an education for me as well. But I wanted to go over a couple things because it's important that you know a little bit about my history as far as I work with Brooks and we work at the auction. One of the responsibilities that we have at the auction is seafood safety, as John and Brooks is always explaining to everybody. But part of my responsibility is to monitor the vessels. We have the vessels that we have to deal with, and we may be talking about maybe 120 longline vessels and thousands of local trolling day-caught fish boats that go out there to catch bottom fish, they catch trolling mai-mais and tunas and whatnot, and they bring it into us. My responsibility is to make sure that they're handling their fish to make sure that we don't run into any problems. Histamine, we talk about histamine and all those things. Seafood safety is important. So one of the things that we do is we monitor their paperwork, we check it out, make sure they register and all that. When they bring their fish in, we take temperatures of it. We make sure that they're handling it correctly, make sure they're icing it down when they're supposed to. If everything checks out, we'll send it on the auction floor and we'll sell it. Simple as that. So anyway, that's just a little bit about what we do there at the auction. And if anybody has any questions, they can always ask. But what I wanted to do was, oh, go ahead, sorry. It's a great question. That's a great question. What happens in a case like that? Sorry? Oh, okay. So the question that she had was, what would happen if the fish didn't check out to the standards of, say, the federal government? The FDA is something that they mandate us. They tell us what we can and cannot do, and how, you know, we have to follow their guidelines. And it's a great question, because if it doesn't check out, we automatically have to reject it. And so what that means is that we cannot sell the fish on the auction floor. We in turn turn around and tell the fisherman, you have an option. You can either test this fish for histamine, or you could take it home. I mean, that's your fish. We don't own the fish. We just represent them. We sell it, but we have to make sure that they follow the guidelines and everything checks out as far as time and temperature. Does that answer that? Great question. Okay, so I brought a box here of some fish that say I was you're buying fish from me. Okay, I'm your supplier, and you're on the East Coast. So, okay, yeah, I'd send it to you like this. This is a wax box. And it has to be that way because the airlines will not let you send anything out there and let the fish get into their airplane, right? So we have here a liner. We have some gel ice. And we have some fish that we're going to fillet. So we are going to... Say you got the box from me and you opened it up and you said, okay, how is the fish? Because you're going to check it like I check the fisherman. You're going to turn around and check it out, right? How is he doing it? Do I want to use him as my supplier? Now look, I'm doing a great job, guys. Okay, so you check it out. And I don't have my temperature with me, my thermometer. Otherwise, I'd automatically take a temperature of it. And you probably do the same thing too, yeah? I'll just put this out here. So let's just say everything checked out, temperatures were good. Okay. Okay. And there's about 12 gel ice per box. If it's got to go 12 hours away, it's got to fly out there. So that's how you'd receive it, and that's how I would ship it out to you. And the next thing I guess you would ask after taking the temperature, you go, what kind of quality is he sending me, right? Okay, so I guess first of all, we want to see what we got. And what we have here is does anybody know what this is? Does anybody know what that is? What was that? Ahi? He's got a poster. No. You got any more posters? He's got a poster. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we got a spearfish. We got a couple of mahi-mahis. I want to show you guys this on the whole fish because there's a couple of things that we want to look at here, and some of it is the quality. And we brought some fish that is something that you don't want to see that comes out of your box. And I think this is one of them. This was actually rejected. We have to, part of this whole system that we have to sensory evaluate 100% of the fish that we have on the floor. We don't have to, but we do. We do 100%. And so, anybody know what this is? Okay, so we got the mahi-mahi. And this one, what we do is we look at it, we look at the quality, sniff it, and believe me, you guys may want to smell this thing and check it out, but we're just going to go and look at the different types of qualities because we got that one, and we got one here. And how can you tell? Because it's got nicer color. Yeah? Okay? So we got a couple of that. We got a tuna, and We got a manchong.
Nice coloring, yeah. Now you came out of the water. This isn't rocket science. So if it's like that, you know that it's like what we look for are other things that biodegradable tunas. Ring around the eye. For those of you that have been there, you've seen that blue ring around the eye, all right? Generally speaking, a lot fresher, but each fish very different, so you notice the difference in quality, okay? The other thing is that, like Nelson said, we make it a point. We check diligently. What does that equate to? That's pride in what you do and how you do things. If you go part way, it's gonna manifest itself down the road. And your customers are gonna be the first to notice. So that's the reason why, as far as our program is concerned, it's very important. All our guys understand and appreciate. They all go through HACCP training. And they appreciate the significance of time and temperature and taking care of those fish.
Yeah, so John was the one that trained me in HACCP, so, and he's always teaching me new stuff, so that's a great point that all of the guys that we work with, they do go to a HACCP class and they do learn that.
Yeah,
so.
we get pretty anal about that. It's very important. It's just basic. It's very, very important. You can't deviate from.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Do we want to do something with this fish right now?
Let's stake that one out. So we show them the staking.
Okay, sure. Because we want to just, this is spearfish, and maybe Brooks can explain a little bit more about the texture or something, but.
Yeah, so this is the short-nosed spearfish, otherwise known as the heavy, and the short bill. That's basically, this fish is like Ono. If it's fresh, it's good, it's firm. When it's older, what happens is that as you start to fillet it, the belly meat starts to fray. It'll come apart. So in this case, if you're buying cheap, you're not really doing your program justice. I mean, you may have a difficult time keeping the fish together. So the guys who buy the heavy, especially for the better restaurants, they're going to buy the fresh stuff, which basically means your price point's a little bit higher. So now we're going to show a little bit of staking in this case. Filleting. So we'll show filleting of the other species, and then in this case, stake out part of the heavy.
Okay, so right here, this is with the head off already, and most of the fish that we sell through the auction is gilled and gutted. Some of the fishermen actually head and gut it, or if we ship it out, it's going to be head and gutted. But what that does, I believe, and they can tell you that it takes a lot of the bacteria out of the fish, so it doesn't spoil as fast. Isn't that right? Is that right?
Yeah, it comes down to basic HACCP. Again, we're removing the bacteria factor, and we can have the fisherman pack the cavity with ice. So you're bringing that temperature down even better.
Okay, so you want me to fillet this, or you want me if you want to steak it?
Steak it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to take the collar off, and I'm going to take the belly off here. This belly flap is pretty long, and it goes all the way back here to about here. And then you'll get that nice, that bullet. It's just so okay. We'll just cut the collar here. Just go straight down.
You see how sharp that
and
knife is?
you can see. Well, I haven't used it for years, so it's okay. So you take the collar off, and this is a 12-inch Forstner in case anybody's curious about what we use, and that has to stay sharp. So I have another one here that's a little bit heavier, and you guys probably work with a lot of knives as well, so you guys know them just as well as I do. But this is what I use to chop, and because I don't want to ruin that blade. So we'll just take this off here.
Now, who eats salmon collars or hamachi collars? Okay. Well, you know, all the species have collars. Yeah, don't forget that. So why throw it away? Think about it.
So normally, what I would do is, I mean, I guess part of the thing is yield, yeah, for this fish anyway. This fish was a 17-pounder. So depending on what you're going to do with it, it just depends on how much you're going to get back on as far as usable product. And I guess if you're going to steak it, it's like any other fish. You're just going to steak it right through. But I brought my mallet. It's like from the Mr. T, I think it was, yeah. This is from Brooks's father, actually. And you can see that this is what they used to use back then, and you know, it works. So what you want to do is, I guess you're just steaking it. I mean, I'd actually fillet this. I think it's actually good as a fillet. To me, I would use it as if I was a chef, I'd use it as an employee meal or something. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's.
Yeah, generally speaking, a cheaper species, but quite available. And most of the time here in Hawaii, especially, they'll fillet the fish as opposed to steaking it out. They stake out a lot of fish on the mainland, and they grill it. But here we fillet, and but just to show you the staking method, the rest of the species we're gonna
Nelson's gonna fillet out. But I don't know if you want me to steak the whole thing, but you know, I know people that would use this to make poke, and it's an awesome fish to make poke. Because just understand this, that these guys that go fishing out here for most of this fish, what is their main objective? Anybody can tell me what their main objective is? Not only to catch the fish, but to make money. And how are they going to make money? You sell it for sashimi, or if you're eating it raw, it's basically sashimi. If you're eating poke, you're putting ingredients on it, but you're still eating it raw, and it's basically sashimi, right? But when you can sell it for top dollar, that's what the mission is, and that's why we look at it so closely, and we make sure that they're doing a good job so that everybody makes money. And we talk about sustainability, and that's part of it.
So, I know people are so used to having ahi sashimi or alpha sashimi. Is any fish capable of using it as sashimi?
Okay, the question is, can you use the other species for sashimi? Definitely. It really comes down to your palate and what you appreciate. So, my wife and I go to a sushi restaurant. Generally speaking, we'll start off with the shiromi, the white meat fish, and usually sashimi, as opposed to eating straight off sushi. And we maybe then get to the red meat stuff. But you can have the experience. In fact, you should experience as much as you can, fresh sashimi, all the way to cooked. Get an understanding. Teach your palate what that's all about. Texture, flavors. Each and every one of these species has its own identity. If you spend the time to understand and appreciate that, your palate will never lie to you, okay? And you get the whole gamut, the whole range. There are fish, Nelson can tell you, at the auction, fish is brown. But our guys have checked it. It's okay. I'll taste some of that stuff, that brown stuff, just to see what it's like. Because I know what the real good stuff is. But this gives you an opportunity to better understand what that species is all about. And, you know, there's a lot of species. So you try. Even Ono, to me, as a kid, I never liked it. No flavor, no fat. Cook it, it dries too quickly. Some people love that sashimi. Fresh, good quality, not that much flavor, but the firmness, you like that. Even mai. So yeah, indeed, you can use a lot of different species for sashimi and poke. Okay, so maybe a few more steaks.
Okay.
Just show them the side view as well. And so he's
Yeah, I got
basically
some-
cutting through the flesh and then using the mallet to get through the bone,
It's got a very,
and then back to the cutting of the. There we go.
it's a really nice meat, and I think out of the marlin, I think maybe if you cook it right, I mean, it's probably
Finer,
one of the
yeah,
most
yeah.
moister ones.
Because this
of
is
them
the
all.
smallest marlin. You have this striped
is-
marlin and then the Pacific blue marlin, the silver or black marlin. And each of them are a little bit different. A little more fat, some not so fat. So even with the Pacific blue and the stripers, you have non-fatty to fatty. Different color, especially in the striped marlin, different colored flesh. Okay, why don't we get to the mahis?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just put this over here.
Yeah.
Let's look at the fun stuff, the one with nice colors. Okay, so we got, as we said,
So, okay, if you were to fillet the heavy, Nelson,
yeah?
if you were to fillet the heavy, what would the yield be from 17 pounds to just the fillet?
Well, on the heavies, generally they're a little bit more sleek and thinner body, so you're going to get less than 42%, somewhere around there, back. But it's a good fish. I mean, it's to me it's uniform. It's a nice shaped fish where you can get, if you're looking for portions, easy to portion those things out. Whereas if you look at an opa or something, you guys seen what the opa look like? You got that triangle belly and you got the back that just comes out like that, and it's like it's harder to get uniform portions, right? Because a lot of times you like going at it, and you got to make it the same weight for your customers, right? But yeah, you'd get less. You'd get about 40, maybe less than 45%. Yeah.
Then your striped marlin, Naidagi.
Striped marlin a little bit more. You get like closer to 50, and nowadays I haven't looked at it lately because before it used to be everything was sold whole on the auction, so the yields are a little bit different. But you generally get a really good percentage, and it might be 52%. You get a little bit more than the spearfish.
So again, by going to the gilled and gutted stage form, we basically worked in the favor of the consumer, because you're buying a fish that basically is without the gills and guts, and in some cases the head as well. So you're buying closer to a net fish than the whole fish, which makes a big difference ultimately. Okay.
So this is a little guy, 8-pounder. They actually just gave me something that I can carry.
Skin it first. Skin it first.
But
The tag you're ripping off, what actually is on that? Well,
this is actually part of traceability as well. I mean, a few years ago, we had a guy that used to write these tags. Every single tag, he wrote them out. He wrote every single tag, and the information that as you asked, she asked what information was on his tag, and part of it is the vessel name. It's got a barcode. It's got the weight of the fish. It has an indication whether it's a gill and gutted or a H&G fish, or if it has a scar on it. There's a little abbreviation, as you can see right here. I think we actually brought this just to make sure that you guys could see that there is some blemishes, and it could be from a cookie cutter shark or
whatever aberrations we see, we indicate on the tag. Traceability on the mainland is a very, very, very big issue today. And substitution of species. So United Fishing Agency was about maybe the first in the nation, I think, to set up a barcoding system to basically for our program.
Yeah.
And so we know when the boats come into the harbor, when they land, when they sold, who we sold it to, and so we have traceability. And we do not play around with substituting species or anything like that. We got scientific names and everything.
Okay, so as far as the mahi, I guess what I just could tell you right now is what I would do. there's guys out there that can cut fish like way better than I can, because these guys do like, 5,000 pounds of filleting a day. I used to do that a long time ago, but I don't anymore. I do this like every so often, right? But what I would do is, there's a couple ways that you can do it. You could take the head off, and you could fillet it, and then you could skin it that way. And there's also ways that you can skin it, and I'll skin that side, like Brooke says here. What some guys do is they'll take it and they'll just cut right here alongside the collar. And if you look at this fin right here, and I don't know how to explain that fin right there, but if you look at that fin right there to right behind the anal and that fin right there, you're going to have a belly cage like this. There's a belly cage like this. So what you can do is you can just run your knife right over it and just go aim straight for that. And you'll completely hit the belly cage, so you won't go right through it, right? So what you'll do is you'll take your knife and just use the tip and just break the skin right alongside of the bone. Because we all know that there's that center bone going down there, right? There's a spine, and then there's that center bone. So what you want to do is, and actually if you just take your tip of your knife and just break that skin, you're going to feel that there is that bone structure down there, and it's all facing this way. So I'm going against it, right? So I'm just breaking that skin. I'm following that line. Can you guys see that, or you can actually see that? Okay, cool. Because all I've done is, and if I run my finger like this, I can just feel it right there. I mean, it's like you can just feel it right there. So what we can do is we'll take it and we'll just peel the skin off like a banana. Okay, so you just peel it off, and I've seen guys do that, and well, wait, I didn't do this side. How's that? Okay, supposed to do two sides. Sorry. So you just peel it off, and if it's slippery, you can use a rag and just peel it right off like that. So you can imagine, what your yield is then. It's a lot better than. There's a couple of ways of doing that.
So how long did it take you to learn how to do that?
I'm still learning.
How many years? How many years?
Well, I've been working in. You mean how long I've been in this business? She asked me how long I was in this business. I'll just tell you. It's 30 years, I think. It's about 30 years now.
Where did I find him? When he was a little kid. No, but think about this, all right? If you don't have a very good cutter, at the end of the year, what's happened? You've lost a lot of money. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take this fillet off right here, since we don't want to talk about my age. Okay, so what I did was I just broke that skin, and now the bone is exposed right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the center bone, to the spine, I guess is what I should say. And then at the spine, I'll just go up a little bit. And what you can see is a little white fiber. I don't know if you can you guys see that? Can you actually see that the actual, like that? Right here, that's like the center of the actual right down the bloodline. It's the center of that spine. Okay, so you want to go up.
So you got the rib bones, right? That's fairly flat. Then you're going to hit that ridge, the spine, and then down again, right?
Okay, and I'm going to take the
So
other
muscle
side
memory, muscle memory.
and do the same thing.
Very important.
Then do the same thing on the other side. So then I'm just going to break this. There's actually a belly, the belly cage I was talking about earlier. You want to break that and separate that from the actual fillet. So. And you just run your knife down like that. And bear with me. There it is. Okay, so that's your fillet. Oh, let me see that. Let me just put this here. So that's your fillet right there. And you guys seen that before, right? So you just do the same thing to the other side.
Yeah, show them the carcass now. How clean it is on the bone.
Yeah, so the when you talk about yield, and I tell my guys all the time, because I don't do this anymore, but I actually train people. And what I tell them is that, the only way you can make money is if your fillet is on the fillet and not the bone, people like to sell bones. They like to sell the bones out on the counter or something, but it's like you're not going to make any money doing that. You want it there where it's top dollar, yeah? But I guess part of this exercise is so that so you know exactly what it is that you're dealing with. I mean, if a guy comes in and says, or if you go out there and you catch your own fish, you're going, I got to cut this thing out. How am I going to do it, right? So we just
my yield.
So mahi yield, and it depends a lot on the size of the mahi, and what was it, about 50%? I don't know, John. What was it? 50? Somewhere around there, 50%.
Mine is close to 50%,
Yeah.
but now, is there a difference between male and female?
Yes.
Yeah, especially the bigger males. You got that big head, right? That's a lot of waste in terms of weight. So that's not going to yield you as much as a large female. Now, in the case of that situation, however, in terms of quality, seasonality is important because now you got to know when these females are spawning. Make sense? Energy is going into the eggs. What happens to the meat? Not quite as good. There is a difference. So that's another thing. Learn seasonality of the species. And then in different hemispheres, different seasons. So like Australia, us, we're opposite, right? So when are their fish running? What are the temperatures like? So all of these play an important role in terms of the basic quality of what you're working with. So learn, wherever you are, the same basics apply.
And a lot of times that I realize that you guys work with knives and all that, so this is good for you guys to know, yeah. But what I tell my guys is that you may not have the nicest looking fish, but if you present it the right way, it's going to be worth more, So this is pretty light right here. I could,
You're hired.
But yeah, that's basically it right there.
No, when we were kids, what we used to do is take the bones, chop it up, and then use that to make broth for soup. Soup broth and that sort of thing. It foams up a lot. You got to clean it, but it's good. Yes. You can come pick up as many bones as you want. No, really, I'm serious. Okay, for our kind of operation, we process, we sell a lot, and we have a lot of waste. So the ultimate answer for me to you is that we've been looking for the means of turning our waste into another form, and in particular, we're talking about fertilizer for agriculture and feed for aquaculture. So ultimately, we'd like to get to that point. But again, if you consider a lot of different restaurants, their program may not include the collars and other parts of the fish, and yet some other restaurants might. So here again, looking at your whole fish, depending on what your ultimate use is and your customer base, it's up to you to decide how you're going to take advantage of that. So if you have some parts that basically are free, why not, right? So if you're working, say, with the wholesaler that has someone conscientious enough to get you the better quality parts and that sort of stuff, then you use this, you get it basically free or cheap. Use that for soup stock or something like this, or saucing. That's I think using your head. You're being innovative. Really, yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? I'm sure there are a lot of other questions. No?
See, this is the old school way of skinning a mahi, Actually, it's how I learned it, Well, but you just slide it right on there.
So you can't be rushing and you can't get lazy and none of this, right? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So that knife's got to be sharp. You got to be committed. Yes. What?
There's a difference. There's a difference in the yield. You can see that there's a difference in the yield. But I like to do it that way because you got all those, you can see the, you can see, what do you call these things here? That they kind of, if you look on the backside of the fillet, you can, when you, it's, you see how clean that looks? I mean, it's a different look. You see that? Can you see that? Yeah. You see the difference?
So the cleaner one was the one that you...
This is the one that I actually skinned it, and this is the one that we peeled it off. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a difference.
Is there a difference in the flavor and the taste? One
Is there a difference in the flavor or taste?
I don't know about that.
I don't know if you cook it up. I don't think so. But in terms of appearance, obviously the other one looks a lot nicer, and that would be the same thing for the heavy.
I'll put that in.
Heavy fillets out, kind of ugly looking, but
Yeah. So, I mean, those things. Don't get me wrong. Now, these things are. This is a small little fish. I mean, we got. You got to deal with 30-pounders. You're dealing with like larger fish. Because as Brooks said, the larger fish gets the larger yield. And, you talk about yield. If you buy fillets, you don't want to be cutting small little portions. And, it's harder to get more out of a small little fillet as it is, you get a big fillet, right?
yeah. Plus your flavor factors are significantly different. A far more mature fish is going to taste a lot different from a smaller, younger one. Especially if you're talking about species like the tunas where fat is also a significant part of it. But even with the marlins, even seasonally, mahi and etc., you have those exceptional fatty ones, and boy, I tell you, it's a big difference. It's a lot nicer.
You want to see this mahi? You want to see what we
That
rejected?
was the...
You want to see what we rejected?
That's the reject fish.
You want to see what we rejected? Well, you've seen it all the time. No,
John's seen a lot of rotten fish, so he doesn't want to see any more. But
no, it's horrible.
the first sign really is your nose, because you don't even have to see it; you're going to smell it.
No, you just look at it. You're going to see the difference.
When you see this, you're going to know what we're talking about. And for those of you who have been to the auction, like I said, when we were going through the fish, you see that some of the guys have cut the tail, cut a part of the tail, or pressed it, whatever, because they're doing the sensory. So what we'll do is our cutters will know if the fish looks a little funky, they're going to check it out. Then they're going to vet that with 3 other people. If they all agree and it's one of those, then they reject it.
So you can see all that. It's just the coloration is just horrible. I mean, and it has an odor to it. It has an odor to it if you.
Okay, now if we didn't reject this, somebody would still buy it cheaper, and some people would still try to sell it. And so this is part of what I'm saying in terms of just the pride with which you present your product.
I'm actually gonna
And
isolate
that's your
this thing, yeah.
reputation. So that's very important.
I'm putting that thing there.
Yeah, you're gonna get itchy. If it starts to scratch, the
Thank you.
histamine's already starting. All right, got maybe about 40 minutes.
No, I got the munchong
We
here.
got the munchong. We'll whip through the munchong.
Okay, now let's do the
So
munchong.
we get to the ahi. That's the important one.
Okay.
Okay, munchong. Now this guy's scale is really pretty thick and quite a lot of it.
Yeah, so the
Munchong or
munchong. Yeah.
pomfret.
And this fish, actually, one of my very first demonstrations was with a munchong. And I'll tell you a little bit about this munchong because the munchong is a fish that has bones in it these bones are very, 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 very tough. They're solid. You can't cut through them. You gotta chop through them. Well, these ones, they really, really, how would I say that? They just, you can just slice right through them. If you're not careful, you'll slice through them and you'll mess up your fillets. So so this guy is 16 pounds. Huh? Yeah. And this fish is so we said it was 16 pounds, and it's whole fish. It's a whole fish. So it has the gills, and you see how beautiful that is. So Brooks can pick this one out.
Well,
I picked that one. He picked this one.
Enough junk fish. We want to show you good fish. So again, that's a good indicator, right? You know, people talk about the eyes, full, clear, huh? Outside sheen, the color of the skin, but also check the gills. If they're nice and red, oh yeah. If they're kind of brown then you're gonna see the slime and you're gonna start to experience the smells.
And this is a really good fish. So, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take the head off. I'm just gonna take the head off and all the guts is gonna come out with it. And try not to break the bags in there. But like I said, it was really soft, yeah, so watch this. So we're just gonna cut down the collar, and that's pretty much all we ever do is follow. It's the same basic, I guess it's the same basic pattern on every fish. You're gonna find that out as you go along, yeah. And I went through it over there. Let me just take this off. See that? See how that is? So this guy has a little bit of eggs in there. And I'm going to try to do this so it doesn't... Okay. I'm going to get rid of this, okay? Hey, if I was at home, I'd be souping that up, you know what I mean? So yeah, this would, I don't know if, that's the eggs, right? I'm using actually sanitation water, sanitized water here.
Do you use fresh water on the fish flesh?
Oh, I don't think you want to use it on the flesh. We never do that. I mean, for like if you're talking about tuna or anything like that, or, some people have ozone in their water. I mean, they use that and then just rinse it off anyway, But she's asking if it's okay to shoot.
I think as a rule, I would.
Yeah.
Not freshwater. All right. If you what? The fish with water, not fresh water now? Not really. I mean, it would be a quick rinse, but generally speaking, especially for the red meat fish, we prefer that you keep water off of it. So like you see me even at the auction with the tail cuts. If there's ice on the samples, I'll usually move that away, especially for the expensive stuff, because once that discolors it, now you're gonna they're not gonna bid as much.
So part of the exercise in purchasing a fish that looks like this, and Brooks always has the eye to pick up the better fish, and so I think he was looking at this thing because it's extra fat. I mean, and that plays into your yield factor too. You know what I mean? If you buy a fish and obviously you can see that it's a little bit skinny, well, you're not going to get the best return for it. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking for when you try to maximize your yield, I guess, is looking at things like that. How fat it is, how fat is the fish, or how, normally, I mean, there's actually fish like this that is a lot thinner, so it makes a difference.
So when you walk into the auction, you see a lot of tunas. But do you ever stop to look at tunas individually and notice if there are differences? A little bit fatter around the tail, more skinny. So what kind of yield are you getting? If you see a very rather rotund one, if you're gonna think, hey, well, and it's got some fat in the flesh, probably inside's got a lot more fat too. So these are things that you pick up after you've seen this for a while. You start to notice differences in each individual fish. And then as you notice that, even in a bunch of big eye tunas, you're going to see the significant differences and what the differences are in terms of quality as well. Freshness, shelf life, right? The guys on the floor that are bidding, a lot of them, they can tell at what stage this fish is at. If it's still rising, plateaued out, or it's on a downhill slide. Some of these guys can tell you which set a particular fish came from. And so understanding freshness and quality is not something that you're going to read about. You got to spend the time to do it, to get into it. People like Nelson and I have spent many times cutting numerous fish. And that's the only way that we've learned. I mean, in a lot of cases, following the fish that we buy, filleting it out, so you know exactly what you bought.
So this one, all I did was I did the same thing that pretty much that I did on the mahi-mahi. And so you get a fillet like that. That's a beautiful fish, Brooks. Picked up a beautiful fish.
I gotta say, you're pretty good still. I thought maybe you lost your touch, but you still got it.
So this one is interesting because it has a belly cage that is really, really thick. So again, the portions, how you run your portions, it becomes a situation where you have to kind of, you see this cage is like super thick.
So that means your yield is going to be less for this particular species. And you're looking at what, about 40%, maybe not quite 40?
Yeah, a little bit, actually a little bit more than that, like 40, 45 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, depends. Like if you've got one like this.
Yeah, a fat one, yeah. That's.
So that, and this right here, this cage right here, I'd take this here and I'd cut it up like this, and I'd put it in my soup because it's really good. See all that meat in there? See all that? You guys can have the fillet. I'll take take the extras.
We'd rather eat the parts closer to the bone, the head, the ribs, the belly. You can have the fillets.
Yeah, I like the bellies and things like that, you know. Put this over here. We fried it up later, you can test it out. Anyway, so that's the manchong. I mean, you want to go further down with that?
Well, I think we're good with that.
I could do the other side.
You want to see him take the fillet apart? Huh? Why don't you take the fillet apart for him?
Okay.
Yeah. So like
Okay.
you're gonna be doing.
Yeah, so 2 sections, right? We just
Yep.
go cut them right in half.
There you go.
And let's just do this real quick right here like this. Because it's a really, really beautiful fillet. But the skin is like super thick. Almost like alligator skin, I think, or something, you know?
Yeah, I'd like to see somebody take this and tan it and see if they can make a fish skin, some like
Yeah,
leather with it. Right?
Some manchong boots.
Manchong boots or something.
Yeah, so, okay, so that's,
Now, let me ask you this, Nelson. And I don't know if the students ever thought about this, but your knife, how is it edged? Is it Japanese style, one side flat, the other side beveled, or both sides beveled?
yeah, it's actually a 2-sided blade. That's a beautiful fillet, huh? Beautiful. God, you gotta love that. You're gonna love that, that's for sure. But yeah, the one-sided blades are normally just for sashimi. I didn't bring my knife, but I didn't bring my my knife.
So why would that be an advantage? One-sided for sashimi.
You know, I always thought that when you got that one-sided, it kind of flips the thing out or something. I mean,
So as you're cutting it,
I think I don't know the history behind all that, but so the belly's a little bit different, right? You got that little bit of flap, and then you got all this meat, so a little bit harder, difficult to deal with. So what is it? Why
that's
is
the
it?
whole idea. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it just facilitates as you're cutting, easier to lay down. So again, you can see muscle memory is very important. Basically, knowing the fish anatomy is important because you're gonna pretty much fillet it the same way, but you've got to adjust size, right? Shape, very important. Opa, totally different again. Opa, most omega-3s, most healthy fish only yields about 27%. So these days at the auction, selling for $3-4 a pound, that's a lot. That's a very expensive fish.
So take a look at what I just did, because I kind of messed that up, but that's what I meant about this fish being like super thin boned. You see that? Like the knife is right through the, can you see that? So now I have to recover, so watch me recover. I gotta recover from that
So you got to do this before the boss shows up.
without messing it up. Okay, so
So the boss looks into the bin and he notices this wasn't cut very well, so and he checks them out.
okay, I think I might have recovered. So, so what you want to do is this one too is that's why it's so thin. This one is delicate, and that's why the guys that cut this fish, they don't like to do it. You got to do about 20 million of these. Can you imagine that? But you get good after a while.
Yeah, but how many cuts do you get too on top of that while you're learning? You get a lot of burns, right, when you're cooking, right? Yeah, same
Yeah,
thing.
look at that. I'm really
Think
like,
about it.
I'm really like
As you're
screwing this thing
learning how to
up.
fillet fish.
I'm giving you guys a class here on what not to do. Because that's how thin this bone is. Okay, here we go. We're going to get it. Okay, we're gonna do this thing right now. You see how soft that is? Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Pretty good.
Anyway, so that's kind of it right there. Kind of. Just cut this right in half.
Yes. Well, basically what you're going to do is you're going to figure, say if you figure out 45%, then you have usable fillet. And depending on your portion, work the numbers out. But in this case, luncheon, usually not so raw. It's going to be prepped, so you're going to have some, you got to know how many plates actually you can get out of that, and then you get that.
So the whole thing is that I think, like normally, you know, this fish, like say, remember I told you that this is the first fish I ever filleted in one of my demonstrations? Oh, it was actually on Let's Go Fishing. Yeah, I don't know, you might have seen that about 20 million years ago. But that fish, and there's a guy at the auction that blames me for all this hype in the price and all that, because now this fish is so valuable. It sells for like $6 a pound sometimes on the whole, as we got it in the box. I mean, from the auction. So if you're talking about some guy that's buying it, he'll put on his whatever percentage on it, sells it to you. You got to cut it, then you got to figure out what you lost, which is say 50%. Now your price is double, so now you know, if you're paying $6, you know, you can do the math on that, right? That's kind of where it's been. I mean, it's been really expensive. I mean,
So let's use 50% because you're going to give yourself a little bit of a hedge. Okay? So let's say 50%. So $6, that's $12. And now you got to figure out profits. So
it smells hot, man.
as you portion out,
Like that.
how many portions you're getting, how many entrees, and then you work that out.
Thank you.
So depending on what your percentage is in terms of what you make, is then how you calculate that. So as you can see, all along the way, from the person who buys the fish, if they're not buying the best, and the person who fillets it, now your company is losing money just to get going. Okay, yes, sir. You had a question back there. How is the market price determined? Basically, supply and demand. So in other words,
thank you very much. Appreciate
at
it.
our level, we can have 100,000 pounds of fish come in for a morning, and that may not be enough fish, because you're not going to have uniformity in terms of quality throughout and freshness throughout. These longline vessels go out for, the tuna boys go out about 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And so, especially on the longer trips, you're going to have a number of sets that they've made, maybe 12, 14 sets. So you have fish that are caught earlier in the trip and later on in the trip. So very different. And so, at the end of the day, how many top tier level fish did you have available? Now, with that number, if the demand factor is higher on that given day, you're going to see some higher prices. So Christmas, New Year's, incredible prices. The rest of the year, depending on what the supply and demand factors are, will dictate what the prices are. But this being an auction, the other thing that's going on is it's like a poker game. You've got players in there that are playing against each other. And so it's a very interesting study of human nature as well as just the fish game itself. And very interesting, just the comments, because there are times when somebody is actually playing games with the other buyer.
Okay.
The guy knows that, and he'll drop a fish on
Thank you.
the person. So that person may have had to pay a little bit higher price, didn't want to pay that price, but got stuck with the fish. So there's a lot of gamesmanship that goes on as well, not just a matter of basic supply and demand. And so the human element becomes a very key part of all of this. It's very interesting to watch. Just okay, the star of the show, the ahi.
Okay, so this paper that we use right here, this is kind of a, it protects the fish from actually like getting, I mean, you remember we was talking about, Brooks was talking about that ring around the eye? You guys see that ring around the eye? Let's see.
Yeah, this one, it has some slight coloration. I purposely ordered this, picked this up because of that.
46 pounder, and let's see that. So there was a couple of things that he wanted to point out, yeah?
Yeah.
And one was the eye. Whoa, see?
So again, this ring around the eye is showing a little bit of blue. The bluer that is, generally speaking, the fresher that fish is going to be. But we do the tail cut still because the reality is that each and every fish is different. And the other thing we wanted to point out, cookie cutter, older bite, fresher bite. In this case, where it's located is not that bad. If it were in the heart of the fillet, it will definitely affect the price. You get in situations where there's a heck of a lot of fish, prices are down, maybe not so bad. When not very much fish available, it's not gonna matter. They just want the fish. So in this case, older wound, fresh bite. Actually pretty nice, this is a pretty nice big eye. Open up the cavity, pretty clean, pinker. The pinker it is, the fresher that fish is, the older fish is gonna show a lot darker, a lot browner in there.
Okay, and so, yeah, that's what the tail cut would look like.
So the buyer comes up, he takes a look at the outside of the fish, he looks at the eyes, he might look into the gill cavity, he look at the tail cuts, he look at the coring. That'll give him an idea of what that whole fish is like from anterior to the tail. And that's how he'll determine, okay, color, texture.
He'll
feel that, they'll usually touch
firmness.
that and get the firmness. Then they'll bid on the fish. So they come in with a game plan, but depending on how much fish there are or how little there is, and depending on the quality factor, will dictate where the prices are for that particular day. And it can jump within the course of 4 or 5, 6 boats. It can start off at a certain point and then go up real high.
I wanted to bring this saw because if you're going to ship this fish out or if you're going to put it in a box like this, it could be like this that'll get to you, or it could be another way where they just they cut the heads off of it. And this is a very sharp saw.
Okay, now this may seem like overkill, but this is a small fish, and we get fish at 200 some odd pounds. This saw is small.
Yeah.
You get a bluefin tuna that's 800 pounds, you can't even use this saw.
So what they normally do is they'll just take it and go down, yeah. And that's just part of the safety factor.
Now,
because,
in reality, especially for these small ones, guys like Nelson, for the most part, they're not going to be using the saw. They're going to be using their heavier blade. But
save this thing.
you got to know what you're doing.
What is this? Can I put it in here? Yeah. That's the goodies. Okay, well, anyway, so you'll see it like this, but if we're to clean this up, we'd clean it all up. I mean, you'd only see, this would be all taken off. It would be super, super clean because, you know, before we ship it out, we want to clean all that extra, that blood in there, yeah? Just so that it travels well. Okay, so, let me just clean this up real quick. Okay, so what do we want to do with this? Okay. So there's 4 quarters to every fish, yeah? Like the mahi-mahi, you're just going to see one side. Whereas the tunas, you're going to see 4 quarters. Okay? So all the other fish was the other way around, where we started this way when we were filleting, if you noticed. We start this way, and then we go this way, and then we turn it over, we go that way. This fish, we're going to start on this side. Well, all of these bones are facing this way, and so what we want to do is we want to go against it when we pull back this way. We want to take this quarter off first, that one, and then we can split the bottom, okay? So we want to take the collar off first. Okay. Okay, like that. And we're going to use our heavy knife just to break that. And okay. And I'm going to do that on the other side already, so we can get that out of the way. And so the reason why I go like to here is because I want to save that belly. That's the good stuff, right? That's my stuff, right? That's what I want. Okay, so that's your collar, and people will utilize that as I would. We could take that. I'll show you. I could show you later. I'll show you after we get done with this. I'll show you what we do with it. God, I'm hungry already. So, okay. So you got your fish. Now let's just wash this real quick. Okay, so we got the belly. We're just going to split the belly. One for me and one for my lady. And so we're going to just take this first quarter off. Now, just imagine if this was 200 pounds. Oh yeah, we only got 10 minutes, right? No, you know what? I've never timed myself, but I'm sure my bosses have.
Linda, we used to cut large tunas.
All the local trolling fish.
Cut the head off and eviscerate, and just your carcass just lying
Okay,
there.
so
We would drop the 4 quarters in less than 26 seconds.
we'll just split this right here down the center. Well, that's actually why they're using me, because now you can see every move. But yeah, so we're just going to split them right here. Whoops. Okay. And so you got your belly quarter right there. Look, I missed one. You got your belly quarter right there. Okay, so that's it right there. And that's pretty good, because you can see the grooves of the bone over here. Can you see that?
Now, this is the big eye. On the yellowfin tuna, right in this section here, just at where the chest cavity comes together, there's going to be this white cartilage. It's going to look like cotton. It's going to be about, yay big. Big eye tuna, albacore do not have that. Only the yellowfin. All right? With the albacore, you're going to notice the belly bones go into the fillet. It's a real bear to fillet that fish. You have to be that much more careful, because if you rush, what's going to happen is it's going to affect your belly section. All right?
Okay, so we're just going to take off the belly cage. We're just going to run the knife right against the belly, and actually just kind of pushing it towards the you want to force, you just want to ride that edge out of the bone right there, so you can maximize the yield as we like to. So I'm just pushing it right against like that.
So let the knife do the work. That's very important. It's a tool.
Okay. And that's, fry. I like that too. So that's your fillet right there. Okay, let's just do this fillet real quick. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna just leave this right here because I think you want me to take the skin off of that. So if I can take the skin off of that. But I wanna take this quarter off because I wanna tell you guys something. I had an experience about 25 years ago where I was cutting this guy's fish. And this is one of the, I don't know if you guys know Take's Fish Market. You guys know Take's Fish Market? Well, he's
Puna Puna. He used to be in Mo'ili, Take's Fish Market.
99 Ranch inside
99
there.
Ranch now in the corner. All
There's
right.
a little sushi.
You want to find some of the highest priced sashimi in town, in the state. Go there. Check it out. He always has beautiful sashimi. And the other thing is that they also scrape the skin and the bones and all that, make a little platter of what they call chutoro, the ground meat. Best deal in town. Check that out.
Well,
That'll give you the abura or the fat flavors.
that was just part of the story. My part of the story was 25 years ago. The guy used to buy tuna. He used to buy tuna. Take is a good friend of ours, and he used to buy tuna from my old boss a long time ago. And I didn't know what I was doing, yeah. But to break me in, my coworkers said, "Okay, we'll cut his fish." So I had to cut Take's fish, and I did everything okay. We went here, and then when I got to this one, I was going like this, and this is important because don't do this. I was going through to just take this quarter off. Well, I went right through to the bottom quarter. So there was a big, oh God. Until this day, he has never said anything about it. The guy is so humble. I mean, he could have just tore right into me, but he never did. But that's why till this day, whatever he needs, I'm there for him. But he was one of the guys that I had to cut the fish for. Anyway, that was a good story. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just breaking that center. There's a center bone that goes between the two bloodlines, and it's actually, the bone is like this, right? And then there's the center of the bloodline. So I'm just breaking that right there. So that's all I want to do is just break that, because after you do that, and it's a lot harder to do this on a table because you cannot really control a lot of the thing you're doing. And the bone right here is a lot harder. As you know, I was doing that. I was supposed to use the mallet,
But you notice fish cutters that cut these tunas a lot, they develop some really thick, right, on the fist, on their hand, yeah. And that's what it is. They use this.
okay, so what I'm doing is I'm actually after I broke that, actually I can actually pull it like this. You can see how it separates from that center bone that goes back this way. You know, this one here, but on this side. So the reason why I do that is because when I run my knife on there, and you want that knife to just do the work and just glide over that. And over here is still intact. So you just want to just let it slide. Okay? So as I'm pulling it at the same time, but you want to let the knife cut as you pull.
So it's pushing down on the loin as well as working the knife.
Okay? So you can get that quarter. And we're just cutting the skin because you notice, like the mai, I broke the skin and, you know, we went that route, right? This one I'm actually doing it after. So you get your fillet like that. And can you imagine going through that loin like this? Ooh. Till this day I'm haunted by that. Okay, so let's just trim this
When
off.
you're practicing, we've all done that, but he didn't get his head slapped. I did. Oh yeah. When you train with the old guys, they don't just tell you. They kick your ass.
Okay, so this is part of the collar that I'm taking off. It's just part of that extra collar right there. So if you want to, you can fry it up too. But some guys use this stuff for bait. So okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking this. This is that center bone that was connected. Yeah. I'm just gonna take that off right there. Just run your knife down like that, and there you go. So you can cut this up and use them for bait or something, you know. People do that all the time. So that's half of the fish right there.
Okay, you notice the belly section and the back section. So the back section, longer and a little bigger than the belly section. But the belly section, generally speaking, a little more fatty, especially if you've got the fatty one. So you can imagine you have 4 Japanese businessmen who are gonna bid for a Tokyo fish Christmas, New Year's time. And they end up paying $1.3 million for this 479-pound fish, bluefin. They're going to go divide it up now. But how do you divide it up equally? You don't. 2 guys are going to get the back section, which doesn't have as much fat, and you're going to pay more money because it weighs more. And then you get the 2 other guys who got the belly section, got all the fat, weighs less. So how do you equitably do that? Kind of hard.
Okay. So you got that 1/4, and what I want to do is, I think I want to use this board right here. I think I'll use that because this goes in here. Oh, you put that in. Okay, so.
Okay, you got a few more minutes, so we're going to have to push it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Okay, so in this case, instead of trying to take all the rib bones out, he takes off part of it, cuts that off, and then works the rest of it. And all of that can be saved for frying and scraping and all. Instrumental in getting our fleet to gill and gut their fish. And my boss said there's no way they're going to do that because these guys lose anywhere from about 8 to 15% depending on species once they get the gills and guts out. And of course, if some of these fish are going for like $20 a pound, that's a heck of a lot of money. Well, what happened was working with a couple of the owners, we just on an experimental basis, they discovered that they were getting higher prices for their fish because the fish quality was getting better by gilling and gutting the fish. And so within a matter of few days, everyone was gilling and gutting. All right, that's one of the harder parts of cutting, filleting, getting that spine off, the backbone.
I was gonna do something, but okay, we're almost done with this.
Okay, now he's got to clean this up.
So long strokes. I'm just going to clean this up real quick. Okay. Okay.
All right, any questions? No? We're 4:30. If you have a little more time, right, it's up to you. You want to see him take that 1/4 down, prep it for sashimi? All right, go ahead. Block it? All right. We could go on for a while, actually. Okay, Nels.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's do this, Ron.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, generally speaking, your restaurant's going to order the fillets. So why not the whole fish? Well, depending on how much fish you use and sell during the course of a week, the other approach would be, say you buy on a Monday, you go buy the next batch on a Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. You got fresh fish. But the other thing is to make sure you're working with a reputable fishmonger, right? Gotta have developed that relationship. In other words, you gotta be able to trust them, because it can be the black hole. Yeah, they can mix stuff. How do you know if their fish came from the auction? They might have been importing some stuff as well, and maybe mix 10 pounds of your 25-pound order with some imported tuna. So if you don't know what you're looking at or what to look for, these things can play a very important role in terms of your restaurant or your store. Okay. So he skinned the tuna.
Okay. So that was a different approach to skinning that. Yeah, I think that's how you probably really want to do it to get the best yield out of that skin.
Taking off the dark meat.
So that's all part of your yield, and that's why when you do a tuna, you're gonna cut sashimi blocks or you're gonna cut poke. It's gonna now not from being a 59% from the whole the gill-gutted fish to your fillet. Now you're looking at gill-gutted to poke or sashimi. It's like 45%. It's a huge difference of what you actually gonna get back, right? Depending on what you're doing with your fish.
So skin off, blood meat off, big difference in your weight, your yield factor, all right?
Okay, so, we could just do this like that.
Yep.
So, what I normally do is, and everybody has their own way of doing it, but what I'm going to do is, I just going to take this thing down like this, and go straight down like that, and turn that into a block. Yeah? So you could cut it in half, right? And then you would cut your sashimi off of that, right? Okay? So you just do another one here. Like I said, people have different ways of doing it, yeah? Maybe Brooks can explain that one. That's why I say that people have different ways of doing it. I sometimes try to get fancy, and I try to cut them at an angle, and it's like, sometimes it doesn't work out. I'm still learning.
But that's the fun part about cooking. Experimenting, trying.
So,
Yeah, try cutting it differently.
yeah, you can get a block out of there, right? And you can make some poke with that. Same thing with this.
So you use the good, solid, uniform parts for the sashimi. The other parts you use for your poke. What's the origin of spicy
The reason
tuna?
why I did that with this side is because when you put it down, it becomes flat. You know what I mean? It comes flat. And you look at this and it goes like this.
So what's the origin of spicy tuna? Think about it. you're changing the flavor of it, right? So what, you take certain parts of these fish, the fish that say you're not going to use for sashimi or poke, like where more the stringy part is, yeah? Well, you don't want to throw it away. Break it all down, mix it with some mayonnaise and sriracha, just spicy tuna. You don't waste anything. You just value added to it, and people love it. Now try use good quality stuff and make spicy tuna. You'll notice the difference.
So this fish is a little bit delicate when you're working with it, so you have to go slowly. I mean, it's delicate as it is. It tends to.
Okay, we gotta wrap up. You gotta go class.
Huh?
You gotta go to class.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, I can finish this later. I mean, huh? Sorry about that. What they got night class in? Yeah. I have.
We use the machine. Now we used to sharpen our own, but we get so busy that we actually have. There's a special machine that they have at Pacific Ocean Producers, and we send it over there. They sharpen the knives for us, but
Yeah,
otherwise, I sharpen all Cynthia's knives. I sharpen that at home, but that's the old style with the block, the stone. Yeah, it takes a while, but she's got some real sharp knives.
Actually, you know, I hardly ever like really sharpen it, but when I use a steel, I use the really smooth one. I don't really go for the coarse one, because I don't know. I always believe that I'm not really trying to grind it down or anything, but I'm just trying to true that edge. I don't know. I'm not. That's just what I think. That works for me. Yeah. And then if that doesn't work, then I call POP. Okay. There's that scar. Yeah, so this fish is actually a small fish, and when you buying these fish, you really want to try and purchase really like fat ones. But
So you got them to fillet everything then. Good one, Linda.
I want to thank Nelson, John, and Brooks for the presentation today. Awesome job. They all deserve a hand. Thank you very, very much for your time and everything that you put into this with great passion. And I hope you'll share photos with what you're going to do with all this fish. Love to see what you come up with. Be sure to turn in your evaluations and look forward to seeing you at another culinary program in the future.